On an unseasonably chilly afternoon this autumn, I drove through my sleepy hometown of Cynthiana, Kentucky, past charmingly try-hard Halloween decorations and a main street that, every time I come home, seems to play musical chairs with various thrift shops, cafes, and karate dojos. The destination tonight? Dinner with my mom and dad, and these gremlins. After our meal, I went rummaging through their attic, as I do every time I visit my childhood home. My parents are pretty good at holding on to things that might be interesting later, so there's a lot of cool stuff up here. Mom's art from college, Dad's electronics from teaching, proof of their lives before me, and evidence of a world beyond my grasp. And yet my link to it all the same. I also enjoy browsing my own random collections from past obsessions, airsoft guns, Pokemon cards, game design journals. Wait, game design journals? If you're not familiar with my channel, I'm a game designer now, but I had no recollection of ever trying to make games as a kid. But based on this sketchbook, it looks like I was trying to make some kind of tabletop role-playing game? Huh. This was probably around middle school when I ran a Dungeons & Dragons campaign with my friends. This is so surreal, I don't remember making this at all, but it's remarkably similar to the style in which I design games now. But this was just the first of many notebooks in a stack. I flipped open the next one. This was older, maybe from first grade, and wow, I used to draw a lot. Mostly battle scenes, or Pokemon, sometimes comic strips, never anything sweet like a family portrait, just cool big guys shooting beams. The boys get it, the fellas know what I'm saying. Still though, I was very critical of my drawings as a child. What did this rabbit thing do wrong? Absolutely nothing, free him. And also, this dog was no good, but all the others were A-okay? Man, the one place I remember drawing all the time was at church, before I became an epic atheist and stopped going. I would draw these top-down battlefields based on this mech RTS that I always played called Total Annihilation, just on the back of church pamphlets using the hymn books as clipboards and those shitty church pins, you know the ones I'm talking about. Crazy vibes. I think my mom threw them all away. Possibly out of sun shame. I understand. Oh, hey, wait, did I draw this? No, I didn't. This is my brother's. Okay, at first I was getting a lot of my brother's drawings mixed up with mine, but there are some differences. This is a drawing of my oldest brother's, and I mean, this rules, but it's definitely different from how I drew. Different character proportions, use of color, composition. And it's interesting that with kids, you can tell their art apart once you've looked at a few of their drawings. There's a recognizable core to even a child's art that says something about how they interface with the world, things they like, details they notice. Something about these scribbled mounds of frenetic faces and limbs appealed to me on a visceral level. And why shouldn't it? Some part of me drew these in the back seats of cars, or at tables in crowded lunchrooms, or on the floor of a cramped beach house filled with my equally unhinged siblings and cousins. I'm still that same guy, I just finally own an iPad now. This was an era when I cartooned just for fun, and I forgot all about it. So, shout out to my mom for holding on to everything from elementary school. Once I, unfortunately, gained sentience in 7th grade, I started burning most of my school folders in a bonfire on the first day of every summer break, like some kind of human personification of that bumper sticker with Calvin peeing on the ground. These notebooks reignited some defunct neurons in my brain, which is currently using an unacceptable amount of bandwidth storing the locations of every hidden beach item in Pokemon Emerald. So I thought it would make an interesting video to revisit my old art style and compare it to the way I draw now. I know it sounds silly, comparing an adult's art with that of a child's, but I'm the type of guy who could be eating nachos, watching Supernatural on a Thursday afternoon, and get nacho cheese all over my Sonic t-shirt, and have to continue watching Supernatural shirtless on the couch, baby style. You know, I'm the kind of guy that could happen to. That could happen to a guy like me. Oh, by the way, my name's Ross. I'm a game developer working by myself on Canyon Eternal. It's a video game about a little boy who gets eaten by a monster on his way to grab a soda from the vending machine, and everything that happens after that. When I reference my art, it's mostly assets and concept art I make for my game. I make videos about art and game design, so subscribe if you want to. Newsflash, motherfucker, making art is fun as hell. My girlfriend got me into making art this year. I noticed how much fun she was having scrapbooking, collecting pine cones and Squishmallow tags like some sort of goblin living out of a Walgreens parking lot. I was feeling burnout creatively, so one day I said to her out loud, I'm gonna learn how to draw. And then I did this. Regardless of my skills, I've been having fun, keeping up with a bunch of sketchbooks, giving myself daily character design challenges, painting, crafting, coloring. Coloring is fun as hell. I've bought like 4 coloring books this year. Shout out Bobby Goods. This was my summer routine. Wake up, go outside, sit in the sun like a lizard until I came up with a new character for Canyon. Later, I would do some programming, journal a little, try a new art project like learning to paint or doing a still life. I yearn for a society where a man can fish in the morning and draw fish boys at night, you know? I also kept a junk sketchbook I would fill just to help me fall asleep. And a sketchbook I took to Dungeons & Dragons sessions with my friends to doodle about jokes we were making. This is a drawing of Garfield from memory. Somewhere in there, I was also squeezing in my first Dark Souls 3 playthrough, discovering one of my favorite anime, Comey Can't Communicate, and failing an attempt at getting into One Piece. Great summer, 10 out of 10. As fun as this has been, gaining the confidence to make art that I will actually use in my game has been an endeavor. I started by taking free drawing courses online, focusing on perspective, but I gotta say my best advice is to just draw what you like and try to do it every day. In my experience, making it feel like school can cause burnout, but you know how I feel about school. The greatest technical challenge for me has been overcoming the issue of my game's isometric perspective in combination with its cartoon style. A lot of isometric games use 3D models, which you can just shoot with a camera using isometric perspective, which shows 3 sides of an object as opposed to orthographic cameras, which show 1. Or if it's created in 2D, designers will often use pixel art, so there is math that you can use to determine the pixel count of tiles in order to make things look proportional. But with my higher resolution 2D isometric style I've chosen, making assets that look right has been challenging. For the first couple of months, I was looking up isometric drawing tutorials, buying special paper to practice with, and creating a huge mood board, borrowing heavily from architectural Pinterest. I also found some tools in Procreate, like an isometric grid and drawing assist setting, which helped me get my footing. But honestly, I'm at the point where I don't mind if something looks off. There's so much art in my game, if a house looks like this, I'm just not worried about it right now. Bring on the jank. If something looks straight up bad, call the cops, maybe. I don't know. Call the cops. They're not gonna do anything to me. They're not gonna watch this video, and they're not going to believe you. The easiest part of developing my art style for Canyon has been making the UI icons. These in-game menus are based on actual things that your character keeps up with: a backpack, a cell phone, and a journal. These menus host a variety of character, item, and other kinds of icons. I've especially enjoyed making all the currency icons, including this little wallet that your character holds. But my favorite part of studying the blade this summer has been making all the side characters in my game. For a long time, I've known the major characters in Canyon Eternal, but it's been a blast bringing the world to life with these anthropomorphic weirdos. I made a whole video about a big mess of these guys, and I also did a deep dive on one NPC in particular. Nothing has changed since I was 6. I just like drawing guys. Oh god, nothing really has changed. Call me an 8th grade science teacher half-heartedly explaining the concept of the Big Bang with a dying dry erase marker and a lingering faith in biblical science, 'cause I'm no artist. My art still kind of looks like a 10-year-old made it, just now with the laser focus of an 11-year-old. I know a lot does change for anyone looking at art that they made in childhood versus adulthood, but I've carried over a surprising amount of influence from media and art I enjoyed when I was really young. The more I think about it, the more I realize I make a lot of choices regarding the aesthetic of Canyon Eternal based on what I grew up with. The biggest influence on the cartoon style of Canyon Eternal has got to be the golden era of The Simpsons, seasons 2 through 10 for me. I loved the look of this cartoon, especially in its early years. All the interesting locations in Springfield, the huge cast of characters, the Treehouse of Horrors specials. I watched this particular DVD so much as a kid. And I loved the gaudy color palettes. I loved the digital distortion that was in these early cell animated episodes. The color bleed, the chromatic aberration, shit, it even influenced the post-processing effects that I'm currently using in my game. When I first started making my own assets for Canyon, I used to find color palettes from The Simpsons using stills I found in Pinterest. This got me interested in color theory, which inspired me to create a model for how color theory would impact my game. Another well of inspiration I draw upon frequently is the dead world of Flash games, and the adolescent internet in general. You know, that 2005 to 2010 stink. Jesus Christ, is that Mountain Dew Code Red in Yogos, or does somebody just open a GameFAQs tab? In my parents' attic, I also found a list of websites I frequented as a child. I mean, who can forget the carefree afternoons spent surfing dietdrpepper.com? I was big into Flash games growing up and spent a lot of time on congregate.com, socializing, posting in forums, and playing a lot of Infectinator, Bloons Tower Defense, all the bangers. Never much cared for cool math games, though. I was afraid I would learn something. Yeah, Canyon Eternal is actually set in 2007, and even the look of the game, the pixelated, blurry 2D sprites with computer game-style isometric perspective, is supposed to evoke that era of indie graphics. I also draw a lot of inspiration for the horror elements of my game from early internet horror things like creepypastas or that fucking maze game. God, I hate that thing. There are a bunch of other really specific aesthetics I like from that era that you'll probably have no connection with, and that's fine. Like, take a look at Digimon World 4 on the original Xbox. Now, I wasn't even a trademark Digimon boy, but something about this game is magical to me. It captures that mid-2000s soft, grungy sci-fi aesthetic so well. Never even finished this game, but my mind always returns to it as the personal gold standard of 2000s user interface for me. As a child, I also used to read the newspaper every week, just for the Sunday comics. Another inspiration for my game's cartoon style, and also the bite-sized scenes that fit into one screen, kind of like a comic strip panel. There was even a point where I was considering just doing Canyon Eternal as a webcomic instead, but I'm not that good at drawing. And you know, I know I'm not special. I grew up on the same shit that any other mid-20s dude who would mention Digimon World 4 on Xbox in a YouTube video grew up with. Late nights watching Adult Swim, retrospectively horrifying PictoChat conversations, the motherfucking iMac photo booth roller coaster background. What can I say? I'm a certified... Now you're thinking, Ross, this is pure nostalgia talking. You're being nostalgic. Everyone feels a strong sense of nostalgia towards media they grew up with as a child. Come on, it's like I put on a 10-hour Minecraft sleep video and you crawled out like Samara Morgan. Nostalgia is kind of prevalent on the internet and in culture broadly. It's possible that you've noticed that. It can be a very communal experience as the zeitgeist dam breaks and an entire era of media comes rushing back to a generation just old enough to re-experience some of that joy they felt while young. It's a powerful feeling and a hammer in the toolkit of corporations like Disney or Nintendo. Year after year, stories are retold, games are remade, and the world as we knew it as children is repackaged just for us because we miss it. Kids often go through life with a freedom they can't help but take for granted, leading their adult selves to feel regret and the urge to go back to those simpler times. And corporations would always rather feed you comfort food than cook up something new. Apart from this capitalist can of worms, nostalgia can be an ugly feeling to have too much of in your life in general. Fond memories are one thing, but constantly ruminating on the past won't ever bring it back. When you're so worried about growing up that you find yourself clinging to childhood, do you ever really experience either one? Now, is nostalgia all bad? I don't think so. I think it's perfectly normal to still own your Beyblade Arena. It's a normal thing to do, and it's normal to do that. I do think it can be detrimental to cling to the past, or worse, live in regret. That's the catch-22 of nostalgia. You get to relive the comforts of childhood while being reminded that you can never go back there. But maybe nostalgia offers something other than comfort too. See, sometimes when I watch an old episode of The Simpsons, the colors aren't as vivid as I remember. How could they be? I've seen those sunflower yellow faces and salmon walls too many times. And when I logged into my old Congregate account a couple of years ago to replay some old games on my favorites list, I discovered they didn't age too well. But maybe these things don't need to mean the same thing they did to me when I was 10. Because if I look at these screens long enough, they become mirrors. Remembering who I am, where I've been, what I love, that's how I found my art style. Earlier this summer, I bought this Edward Gorey art book from the Chicago Institute of Art. He was a 20th century illustrator with a unique style. He draws these simple characters with lots of gothic imagery, creating spooky yet cozy scenes that are really evocative without any words. And his work has so much personality, you feel like you're getting to know this person just through these little vignettes. When I look at my own art and childhood drawings, I'm reminded that art is a great way of reminding yourself who you are. I used to think about my art style as a list of rules that I needed to follow to try to make iconic looking art. But gun to my head now, if you were to ask me to describe my game's art style, I'd probably say I just make stupid cartoons and I like them. There's a lot of room for improvement with my art style, obviously, like a staggering amount. I'm currently at a stage where I'm still embracing things that I like. The isometric perspective, anthropomorphic characters, cartoon color palettes, Sunday comic style line art. I want to practice more and answer more lingering questions about how Canyon is going to look. Where am I going to use colored outlines? Should lines be one weight or dynamic? Will I use photos to add texture? What style animation am I doing? I haven't even touched animation. Oh God, making games is hard. But if making Canyon Eternal is a journey, I've only taken the first step. And if you want to join me on that journey and watch how my art style and video game Canyon Eternal progress, you should subscribe to my channel. I cover all kinds of creative topics, do art challenges, and dive into specific areas of game development. If there are any ideas that you'd like to see me cover in the future, please let me know in the comments. Especially art challenges. I had a lot of fun doing my 100 NPC challenge video. And if you're feeling really generous, you can also support me and my game's production by joining my Patreon. There's only one tier, it's $1, and by donating, you get access to the Canyon Eternal Discord, as well as your name in these videos, along with these kind patrons. I really appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching. I hope that you have a great day, and I hope you find what you're looking for. Bye.